Craft the Perfect Seduction, Unlock the Secrets of Attraction and Influence, presented by Boundless Books Audio. Introduction. Welcome to Boundless Books Audio. The lure of the unseen in the shadowed halls of ancient Alexandria. Cleopatra once dissolved a priceless pearl into vinegar, drank it, and wagered her future on a single audacious act of seduction. She knew what few others dared to grasp: desire is not sparked by grand gestures alone but by the invisible threads of emotion we weave into the minds of others. Seduction in her hands was not mere flirtation, it was a weapon, a currency, and a crown. This is the essence of seduction, the ability to bend reality by bending hearts. It is the oldest game of power, played in palaces and back alleys, boardrooms and bedrooms. But do not mistake it for a trivial pursuit. Seduction is the art of emotional alchemy, transforming the ordinary into the magnetic, the resistant into the obsessed. It is the quiet orchestration of attention, the calculated flicker of vulnerability, the mastery of timing that turns a spark into an inferno. The power of seduction, more than just attraction, fades. Beauty withers, but seduction endures. It is not about the curve of a smile or the cut of a suit, it is about storytelling. The seducer crafts a narrative so intoxicating that the target voluntarily steps into the role written for them. Think of the lover who becomes a mirror, reflecting back the fantasies of their prey, the leader who whispers, "You are extraordinary," and watches as others scramble to prove it true. Seduction is the ultimate form of control because it disguises control as desire. Why emotional manipulation is key to desire: humans are governed by emotions, not logic. To seduce is to become a cartographer of the heart's hidden valleys. The great seducers of history, Casanova, Mata Hari, even the enigmatic Madame de Pompadour, understood that people crave what they cannot fully possess. They weaponized curiosity, certainty, and hope. They knew when to retreat, when to overwhelm, and when to vanish, leaving their mark etched into the psyche of their targets. Emotional manipulation is not cruelty, it is the art of strategic empathy. By mirroring another's vulnerabilities, you become the cure to their loneliness, the answer to their unspoken prayers. The ethics of seduction: power versus responsibility. But here lies the danger: seduction without conscience is a poison. In 16th century Florence, the poet Pietro Aretino wielded his pen to blackmail kings and cardinals, his words dripping with honey and menace. He died wealthy, feared, and alone. Seduction unchecked by morality corrupts both the user and the victim. The true master, however, wields this power with care. They ask, is this manipulation for domination or elevation? To seduce responsibly is to ignite growth, to awaken others to their own potential or your own. It is the difference between a con artist and a catalyst. How this book will transform your ability to influence. This is not a manual for pickup lines or parlor tricks. It is a map to the subtle dance of human longing. You will learn to read the unspoken, decode body language, silences, and the flicker of insecurity in a glance. Craft desire, plant ideas so seamlessly that others believe they originated within their own minds. Control the rhythm, master the push-pull of intimacy and distance, making your presence irresistible. Turn vulnerability into power, transform your flaws into magnets, your scars into legend. Imagine a world where you are the flame and others are moths drawn to your light, not by force but by their own willing descent. This is the promise of seduction. But heed this warning: once you see the strings that puppet human desire, you cannot unsee them. You will walk into a room and smell the fear, the longing, the hunger for validation. You will know how to pluck those strings with the precision of Athena. The question is, will you play the melody for destruction or for transcendence? Let's get started. Chapter 1: The Psychology of Seduction, the Forbidden Symphony of Desire. In the smoky dens of 18th century Venice, Giacomo Casanova once wagered he could seduce a cloistered nun. He did not win with brute charm but by studying her like a cartographer mapping uncharted terrain. He noted her restless fingers during prayer, the way her gaze lingered on the locked garden gate. He became her confessor, her poet, her escape. When she finally fled with him, it was not his beauty that moved her, it was his ruthless grasp of her unseen hungers. Seduction begins where logic ends. It is not enough to know what a person says they want, you must uncover what their soul whispers in the dark. Understanding human desires and emotional triggers, all humans are governed by two primal forces, the need to escape pain and the hunger to attain pleasure. The master seducer operates in the space between these poles. Consider Helen of Troy, whose face launched 1,000 ships. Her power lay not in her beauty but in how she weaponized the delusions of men. Paris saw in her a goddess, Agamemnon saw a trophy, Achilles saw a pretext for glory. She became a mirror for their ambitions, their insecurities, their thirst for immortality. To seduce, you must ask, what does this person fear losing? What do they secretly crave but dare not confess? The answer is rarely love or wealth, it is often validation, control, or the illusion of being chosen. The science behind attraction and chemistry beneath the poetry of desire lies a cold chemical truth. The brain, that fickle alchemist, brews 3 potions in the cauldron of seduction. Dopamine, the wolf of want, howls for the next hit, the thrill of the chase. This is the drug of gamblers, addicts, and anyone who has ever swiped right on a dating app. Casanova understood dopamine well, he kept his lovers perpetually unfulfilled, dangling promises like ripe fruit just out of reach. Oxytocin, the glue of bonds, floods the brain during touch, trust, and eye contact. The lovers who gaze into each other's eyes for hours are dosing each other with oxytocin. Weaving invisible chains. Romeo and Juliet, in their fevered balcony scene, were not just declaring love, they were chemically merging. Serotonin, the leash of obsession. Low serotonin levels turn desire into fixation, it is why scorned lovers stalk, why cult leaders command loyalty. The genius of social media, it engineers serotonin droughts, leaving users desperate for the next like, the next fleeting validation. How to tap into subconscious desires. In 1920s Vienna, a therapist named Sigmund Freud treated a patient who dreamed nightly of drowning. Freud did not soothe her, he dissected her. The drowning, he realized, was a mask for her repressed longing to be consumed by passion. She craved not rescue, but surrender. The subconscious is a vault of such secrets. To crack it, mirror their fantasies, become the canvas onto which they project their ideal self. A CEO might yearn for amusement to soften his ruthless image, a wallflower might hunger to be the wild one in someone's story. Invoke primal instincts, humans are still animals you scent. Pheromone touches the brush of a hand and silences the unspoken threat of withdrawal to awaken the jungle within their civilized facade. Plant the missing puzzle piece, make them believe only you can fill a void they didn't know they had. The car artist who sells worthless swampland does not lie, he convinces the mark they've discovered buried treasure. The panther's done in the Amazon rainforest, the jaguar does not chase its prey, it waits motionless until the deer steps into its shadow, then it strikes. Seduction is this dance, it requires patience, observation, and the willingness to become both predator and prey. Study the nervous laugh, the darting eyes, the stories they repeat about themselves. These are the breadcrumbs leading to the core of their psyche. But remember, to awaken a desire is to awaken a monster. The skilled seducer knows when to leash it, when to unleash it, and when to vanish, leaving the target forever chasing the ghost of what they once felt. The unspoken challenge, by now, you may feel a flicker of unease. Can I really do this? The answer lies in the next chapter, where we dissect the 9 pillars of influence, tools to dismantle resistance and turn even the most guarded heart into an open door. But first, ask yourself, how deep into the labyrinth are you willing to go? Chapter 2, The Art of First Impressions. The alchemy of first glances in the court of Louis XIV. A young courtesan named Nanda Leno once silenced a room of aristocrats with nothing but a smile. Her secret? She understood that first impressions are not made, they are stolen. Like a thief in the night, she seized control of the narrative before a single word was spoken. Her posture, her gaze, the deliberate pause before she laughed, all were brushstrokes in a portrait of unattainable allure. First impressions are the opening salvo in the war of seduction. They are primal, instantaneous, and ruthlessly unforgiving. Neuroscience tells us the human brain forms judgments in 1/10 of a second, faster than a heartbeat. To master this moment is to hijack the amygdala, that ancient part of the brain that still sees the world in terms of predator, prey, or mate. Creating a magnetic presence. Magnetism is not charisma, it is gravity. Consider Rasputin, the Siberian peasant who bent an empire to his will. His power lay not in his words but in the space he occupied. He moved slowly, as if wading through invisible tar. He smelled of earth and smoke, a primal contrast to the perfumed aristocrats of St. Petersburg. People leaned toward him, unconsciously seeking to close the gap between his raw energy and their polished artifice. To cultivate presence, become a void, let others fill the silence. The less you reveal, the more others project onto you. Anchor yourself, plant your feet, lower your voice, and speak as if every word costs you something. Contrast is king. In a world of noise, be stillness, in a crowd of smiles, be the one who frowns, then smiles last. Mastering body language for maximum attraction. The body never lies, it whispers secrets your lips would never dare to speak. Napoleon Bonaparte, that diminutive conqueror, turned his physical stature into a weapon. He folded his arms not to shrink but to appear coiled. A spring ready to unleash. His rivals misread his posture as defensiveness, his lovers saw it as suppressed passion. The rules of engagement, the triangle of power. Tilt your head slightly, raise your eyebrows, and purse your lips. This mimics the thinking face of a chess master, triggering subconscious respect. The puppeteer's touch, lightly brush your own wrist or neck while speaking, it signals vulnerability inviting others to rescue you. The dominant lean when standing, shift your weight to one leg, it opens your torso, exposing the heart, a primal signal of fearlessness. The power of eye contact and mirroring techniques. In the 1950s, a con artist named Yellow Kid once swindled a banker out of $500,000 with a single glance. He held the man's gaze for 3 seconds too long, then looked away just as a child might after being caught stealing cookies. The banker, disarmed, felt an irrational surge of trust. The eyes are the scalpel of seduction. To wield them, the lingering stare, hold eye contact 60% longer than feels comfortable. This floods the target with cortisol, stress, and oxytocin, trust, a disorienting cocktail. The social mimic, mirror their gestures with a 2-second delay. If they sip wine, you adjust your cufflink. If they cross their legs, you stroke your chin. The brain interprets this as kinship. The pupil game, bright light dilates pupils, which signals arousal. A candle at dinner isn't romantic, it's a biochemical hack. Crafting the perfect aura of mystery and intrigue. In Edgar Allan Poe's The Purloined Letter, the most obvious clue is hidden in plain sight. So it is with mystery, the greatest enigmas are not obscure, they are selectively revealed. The Byzantine Empress Theodora, a former actress, mastered this art. She would answer a senator's question with a parable, then retreat into silence. The men around her burned to unravel her riddles, mistaking their frustration for fascination. To weave intrigue, the half-truth tactic, reveal a trivial secret, I once stole a horse in Morocco, to bait the hook. They will assume the deeper secrets are even more tantalizing. The exit strategy, leave conversations at the peak of curiosity. Whisper, wait until you hear what happened next, then vanish. Dopamine will do the rest. The paradox cloak, be both vulnerable and untouchable. Admit a fear of abandonment, then check your watchers. If bored, confusion breeds obsession. The cobra's hiss, a cobra does not strike immediately. It inflates its hood, flicks its tongue, and lets the prey come to it. First impressions are no different. You are not selling yourself, you are staging an encounter. Every gesture, glance, and breath should whisper, I am more than you see, and you will never fully have me. The unseen hook. By now, you may wonder, what if I'm too ordinary to command such attention? The answer lies in the next chapter, where we dismantle the myth of natural charm and teach you how to weaponize your fraud. Pause. But first, practice this. Walk into a room tomorrow and imagine you are the protagonist of a film. Let others orbit your gravity. Watch how the world bends to accommodate you. A mystery is not a smoke screen, it is the oxygen of desire. Chapter 3, Emotional Manipulation for Deep Connection, The Puppeteer's Gambit. In the opium den of 19th-century London, a woman named Cora Pearl perfected a dangerous game. She would vanish for weeks, leaving her patrons frantic, only to reappear with a laugh and a careless, "Did you miss me?" Her lovers, heirs to fortunes and titles, became addicts, hooked not on her body but on the rhythm of her absence and return. Kay understood the cardinal rule of emotional manipulation: to be fully possessed is to become ordinary, to be chaste is to become divine. The push-pull technique, keeping them hooked. In the 1780s, the poet Lord Byron drove Lady Caroline Lamb to madness with a single phrase, "I will never love you, but I will never leave you." He alternated between passionate letters and icy silence, between tender embraces and public humiliations. Caroline, heir to an earl, slashed her wrists, stalked his mistresses, and immortalized him as the mad, bad, and dangerous to know anti-hero. The push-pull works by exploiting the brain's addiction to uncertainty. Dopamine surges not when we receive a reward but when we anticipate it. Byron's mixed signals kept Caroline's brain in a state of frenzied prediction: will he stay, will he leave? Turning her into a puppet of his design. To master push-pull, withdraw affection after moments of intimacy: I feel so close to you, but I'm not sure I should. Reward pursuit with ambiguity: you intrigue me, but I'm complicated. Use guilt as a leash: you've never met someone who makes me feel this conflicted. Emotional anchoring, making someone feel addicted to you. When Madame de Pompadour became Louis XV's mistress, she didn't rely on beauty alone. She anchored herself to his psyche by designing rituals: a specific perfume worn only during their trysts, a song played before his victories in war, a phrase, "Mon roi, mon magician, my king, my magician," whispered in moments of triumph. Over time, Louis associated her presence with his greatest joys and fears. Without her, he felt unmoored. Anchoring works like this: pair a unique stimulus, a scent, a phrase, a gesture, with intense emotion, joy, fear, relief. Repeat the pattern until the stimulus alone triggers the emotion. Become the curator of their emotional highs and lows. A modern seducer might reserve a certain laugh for moments of shared rebellion or wear a signature cologne during pivotal encounters. The target begins to crave you as the source of their most vivid feelings. How to subtly elicit strong emotional responses in the 1920s. Harlem the K artist, known as Sweet Daddy Grace, built a religious empire by weaponizing emotion. He'd humiliate a follower in front of the congregation, declaring, "You're unworthy of God's love," then cradle them in his arms, weeping and proclaiming, "But I see grace in you." The whiplash of shame and redemption kept his flock dependent. To elicit visceral responses, invoke nostalgia: "You remind me of someone I once knew, someone I lost." Stage vulnerability: a trembling voice, a tear quickly blinked away. Force moral dilemmas: would you lie for me? Would you hate for me? The goal is not to comfort, but to unsettle. A stirred soul is a malleable one, the power of uncertainty makes them chase you. Greta Garbo, the enigmatic screen siren, retired at 36, leaving Hollywood and her adoring public to speculate for decades. She released cryptic letters, granted rare interviews, and died with her personal life an unsolved riddle. The result: a cult of obsession that outlasted her career by generations. Uncertainty operates on three axes: scarcity, I don't have time for everyone; ambiguity, I'm not sure what I want, are you; unpredictability, a sudden gift, a cancelled date, a planned date, a midnight confession. The brain fixates on unresolved mysteries. To keep someone chasing, never fully answer the question, where do I stand with you? The serpent's kiss, emotional manipulation, is a blade wielded carelessly. It leaves casualties. Wielded with precision, it carves pathways into the soul. But a warning: the more you twist someone's emotions, the more you bind yourself to their chaos. Every seducer risks becoming the seduced. The unseen abyss. You now hold the tools to dismantle a psyche, but what happens when the chase ends, when the target surrenders? How do you maintain control? The next chapter reveals the deadliest art of all. The illusion of inevitability. Her love is a duel, let them think they've won until they realize they've already lost. Chapter 4: The Language of Seduction. The tongue as a blade in the smoky salons of Victorian London. Oscar Wilde would captivate rooms by declaring, "I can resist everything except temptation." His words were labyrinths, playful, paradoxical, and laced with danger. Wilde understood that language is not merely communication, it is a spell. To seduce with words is to hypnotize, to make the listener an accomplice in their own unraveling. Using words to spark attraction and intrigue, the Marquis de Sade once wrote, "It is not the sword that kills but the hand that wields it." Words, too, are weapons of precision. They can strip armor, resurrect ghosts, or plant seeds of obsession. Consider the rhythm of a sentence: short, staccato phrases, "You feel it, don't you?" Create tension. Long, flowing sentences, "Imagine a world where no one else exists," lull the mind into surrender. The seducer's lexicon thrives on ambiguity, phrases that mean everything and nothing, leaving the target to fill the void with their own longing. The three pillars of verbal seduction: the loaded pause, silence after a provocative statement forces the listener to react; the double entendre, innocence masquerading as mischief, "You're dangerous, do you know that?" The unfinished thought, "If I told you what I really wanted." Never mind. The power of storytelling and emotional imagery. Scheherazade, the Persian queen of 1001 Nights, saved her life by telling stories that ended on cliffhangers. Each dawn she left her husband, the king, desperate to hear more, transforming herself from a prisoner into a necessity. Stories bypass logic, they make the listener a co-conspirator in the fantasy. To seduce, craft narratives that mirror their hidden desires. Desires the victim: "I've never met someone who understands what it's like to feel so misunderstood." The hero: "You're the first person who makes me want to trust again." The forbidden: "This is crazy, but what if we just disappeared?" Use sensory details, don't say, "I want you," say, "Your laugh sounds like summer nights I never wanted to end." Subtle psychological triggers in conversations in 1920s New York. Con artist Victor Lustig sold the Eiffel Tower for scrap metal. His secret? He peppered his pitch with presuppositions: how soon can we finalize the deal? Which payment method suits you best? By assuming consent, he made resistance feel unnatural. Triggers to deploy: the mirage of choice. Would you prefer to meet here or somewhere more private? The embedded command: you're smart, you'll figure this out. The metaphor mask: some people are hurricanes, you're the calm after the storm. Mirroring their speech patterns, pacing, slang also works. It whispers, "We are the same." The art of flirting, seductive phrases and tactics. Casanova, that eternal shapeshifter, once wrote, "A flirtation is the art of making a woman feel she's the only violin in your symphony." His genius lay in tailoring his language to his prey. The intellectual: "You're too brilliant for this world." The rebel: "You're the only one here who gets it." The romantic: "I've dreamed of someone like you." Modern tactics: the whispered confession: lean in and murmur, "I shouldn't say this, but you're unforgettable." The backhanded compliment: "You're trouble, I like trouble." The future projection: I can already picture you laughing in my kitchen at 2 a.m. Pair words with tonal manipulation, a breathy laugh, a gravelly pause, a question that trails off. The spider's web, language is the final snare, each word a silk thread, each sentence a tightening coil. But remember, the more artfully. The more you speak, the more you risk revealing your own vulnerabilities, the poet Rumi warned. Her words are a bridge, but they can also be a cage, the unseen precipice. You now wield the power to rewrite someone's reality with a single sentence. But what happens when they begin to see through the script? The next chapter reveals how to erase the evidence, turning seduction into an irrevocable truth. Words are the most dangerous drug of all, swallow them, and you'll crave the hand that feeds you. Chapter 5, Mastering Nonverbal Seduction, the Silent Symphony of Control. In the smoky cabaret of pre-war Paris, Mata Hari spun her body into a language more potent than words, her fingers trailing the air. Her hips whispering secrets, her eyes locked on a single officer in the crowd. She turned dance into espionage, movement into manipulation. By the time her mark realized he'd been ensnared, his secrets were already hers. Nonverbal seduction is not about what you say, it is about what your body demands the other person feel. The role of touch in building intimacy. In 18th century Edo, the geisha known as Taka mastered the Abashan retreat, a hand grazing a sleeve, a palm lingering on a shoulder, a playful tap of a fan. Each touch was a sentence in a dialogue without words. She knew that skin remembers what the mind tries to forget. The hierarchy of touch, the innocent, a hand on the arm during laughter releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone. The claim, fingers laced at the nape of the neck signals possession, even in jest. The ghost, a whisper soft brush of fingertips quickly withdrawn triggers pursuit instincts. The key is asymmetry, touch them, then retreat, let their body ache to bridge the gap. Using proximity to increase attraction, Rudolph Valentino, the silent film great lover, weaponized space. He'd lean into a co-star's earshot, his lips brushing their earlobe, then murmuring a line just loud enough to make the audience and his victim tremble. Proximity is a drug. The closer you stand, the more you hijack their fight or flight response. The rules of the mirror, stand at their side, not face to face, it creates camaraderie, not confrontation. The lean, invade their space during moments of vulnerability, a confession, a joke. The exit, step back suddenly, leaving them disoriented. The brain craves the return to equilibrium. A study in psychological science found that strangers seated 18 inches apart reported higher attraction than those at 3 feet. The body equates closeness with intimacy. Even if it's a lie. Voice tonality and pacing for maximum influence. Frank Sinatra didn't just sing love songs, he inhaled them, his voice a gravelly purr. A pause held a beat too long turned lyrics into spells. The seductive voice is not loud, it is felt. The 4 pillars of vocal control, the whisper, drop your volume mid-sentence, they'll lean in, their pulse quickening. The crack, let your voice break on a word, you undo me, it signals vulnerability. The mirror, match their cadence, then slow yours, they'll unconsciously sync to your rhythm. The anchor, pair a specific tone with a sensation, oh, tonight, isn't it, while brushing their hand. Seductive gestures that speak louder than words. Marilyn Monroe once turned a stumble into an art. Her heel caught on a step, her hand fluttering to her chest, her laugh a melodic gasp, every gesture screamed, I am delicate, save me. Men scrambled to play the hero. The arsenal of movement, the half shrug, a micro-expression of helplessness, what can I say, that invites rescue. The slow blink, a deliberate, languid closing of the eyes triggers primal trust signals. The object ritual, adjust a necklace, twirl a pen strokes on a glass, repetitive motions hypnotize. Even silence can be a gesture, a raised eyebrow, a smirk swallowed mid-formation, a sigh that fades into the air. These are the commas in the sentence of seduction, the panther's embrace. Nonverbal seduction is the art of becoming a living paradox, both predator and prey, both in control and out of reach. Every flicker of a wrist, every shift in tone is a thread in the web. But a warning, the body cannot lie forever. The more you manipulate, the more you risk revealing the puppeteer behind the curtain, the unseen abyss. You now command the tools to make a person's body betray their mind, but what happens when the mask slips, when the target sees the strings you've tied to their heart? The next chapter reveals how to turn seduction into surrender and ensure they never want to escape. The body is a confession, learn to read it and you'll never need words to be believed. Chapter 6, Creating an Aura of Desire, the Shadow that Whispers in the Moonlit Courtyards of Heian, Japan. The poet Izumi Shikibu captivated emperors and commoners alike without uttering a syllable. She would glide through gardens, her face veiled, a scent lingering like incense, and leave a single line of verse on a lover's pillow. The dewdrop's touch is gone before dawn. Those who chased her found only echoes, those who waited were consumed by her absence. She understood the ultimate truth of desire, what the mind cannot grasp, the heart worships. How to be irresistible without saying a word. In the 16th century, the Ottoman harem's most feared figure was not the Sultan but a eunuch named Ghazan. For though forbidden to speak, he wielded power through his presence, his slow, deliberate movements, the rustle of his silk robes, the way he stared through people as if they were ghosts, all whispered, "I see you but I do not need you." The alchemy of silence, the void technique, let others fill conversational gaps, a raised eyebrow or a faint smile forces them to guess your thoughts, making you a riddle they crave to solve. The gravity shift, move as if the air resists you, walk slower than others, speak slower, blink slower, speed signals anxiety. Stillness commands reverence. The sensory hook, where a signature scent, texture, leather, velvet, or a sound, a jingling bracelet, sensory cues bypass logic, lodging themselves in memory like splinters. The power of scarcity, making yourself more valuable. Greta Garbo, the Swedish Sphinx, retired at 36, leaving Hollywood to dissect her every whisper. She released cryptic letters, granted interviews only via intermediaries, and let the world hunger for what it could not have. Her lesson: scarcity transforms flesh into myth. The scarcity formula, the phantom presence: be seen only where you're unexpected, attend events briefly, then vanish, let rumors outpace you. The selective reward: grant attention sparingly, answer a text in 24 hours, a call in 48, each interaction becomes a win they must earn. The vanishing act: after intimacy, withdraw. A cancelled date, a postponed meeting, each absence rebrands you as a prize, not a given. Developing an enigmatic and mysterious persona, the Sphinx did not guard secrets, it was the secret. It was the secret. In 1920s Cairo, a mystic named Solitaire, amused Aleister Crowley, hosted salons where she'd answer questions with riddles, her face hidden behind a golden mask. Guests returned nightly, addicted to the torment of near revelation, the enigma blueprint, the half-truth cloak. Share fragments of your story but never the whole. I once loved someone who didn't love me back. Pause, let them invent the rest. The paradox performance: be both vulnerable and untouchable. Admit a fear of abandonment, then check your watch. Confusion breeds obsession. The Oracle Gambit: answer questions with questions. Why do you think I'm here? Forces them to project their desires onto you. The psychology of playing hard to get in 17th century France, the courtesan Ninon de L'Enclos charged suitors 10,000 livres for a single night, then made them wait weeks. The delay didn't deter them, it amplified their hunger. She knew desire: fire is a fire stoked by denial. The hard-to-get playbook, the bait and switch. Offer affection, then distraction. A tender moment followed by a sudden focus on a book, a text, a distant sound. The social proof mirage: let them discover you're sought after, a friend's casual mention of another admirer, a photo of you laughing with someone else. The exit strategy: always have a reason to leave. I'd love to stay, but. The brain fixates on incomplete experiences. The mirror of smoke, an aura of desire, is a reflection of the observer's fantasies. You are not the flame, you are the mirror that makes them see the flame. But heed this: the more enigmatic you become, the lonelier your throne. The poet Rumi warned, everyone carries a piece of the puzzle, nobody has the whole picture. The unseen abyss: you now know how to turn absence into addiction, silence into seduction. But what happens when the game ends, when the target stops chasing and starts demanding? The next chapter reveals how to transition desire into devotion and make them believe it was their idea all along. A desire is a shadow: the more you chase it, the faster it flees. Stand still and let it wrap around you. Chapter 7: Controlling the Mind and Emotions. The alchemist's gaze in the blood-soaked courts of Tsarist Russia. Grigory Rasputin held an empire in his nailed hands. Peasants and empresses alike fell to their knees before him, not out of piety, but because he had rewired their minds. He would stare into a woman's eyes, murmur, "You are safe with me," and watch as her doubts dissolved. When he vanished for weeks, his disciples grew feverish, desperate to reclaim the euphoria he alone could provide. Rasputin understood the mind is clay, and desire is the sculptor's hand. How to build emotional dependency, in the 1920s. The con artist known as Count Victor Lustig sold the Eiffel Tower for scrap metal twice. His secret? He didn't just deceive his mark, he made them need to believe. He'd stage chance encounters, drop breadcrumbs of inside information, and mirror their greed until they saw him not as a liar but as a savior. The dependency formula: the relief phase: identify their pain, loneliness, insecurity, ambition, and offer temporary solace. I've never met someone who understands me like you do. The withdrawal phase: gradually withhold the comfort, cancel plans, grow distant, let them feel the void you once filled. The reinforcement phase: return with an act of kindness, a gift, a confession, a favor. Their gratitude will cement your indispensability. Like a drug, you become the only cure to the addiction you've engineered. Neurolinguistic Programming, NLP, for Seduction. In 1938, Hitler's propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels didn't just spread lies, he rewired minds. He paired patriotic symbols with fear-mongering, rhythmic speeches with strategic pauses, until the German people conflated his voice with survival. NLP operates on the same principle, hijacking neural pathways to link pleasure to your presence. NLP Tactics for Seduction. The anchor a specific touch, your hand on theirs, with a peak emotional moment, tell me your darkest secret. Repeat until the touch alone triggers vulnerability. The embedded command: soften directives with tone shifts. You're so interesting, you should share that story again. The trance induction: use rhythmic speech, repetitive gestures, and prolonged eye contact to lull the conscious mind into compliance. The power of suggestion and hypnotic influence. In 18th-century Vienna, France, Mesmer mesmerized aristocrats into believing he could use animal magnetism to heal their ailments. His real trick: the power of suggestion. He'd wave iron rods, hum incantations, and let their imaginations do the rest. The hypnotic toolbox: the confusion technique overwhelmed their logic with paradoxes. The more you resist, the deeper you'll fall. The yes ladder: start with small agreements, a beautiful night, isn't it, to prime them for bigger concessions. The metaphor mask: wrap commands in stories. I once knew a man who couldn't see the truth until it was too late. The mind, when disoriented, craves a guide. Be that guide, reframing thoughts to make someone see you differently. When Cleopatra first met Mark Antony, she didn't seduce him, she rebranded him. She renamed him Dionysus, god of ecstasy, draped him in silks, and staged feasts where he was worshipped. He ceased to be a Roman general. He became her creation. Reframing strategies: the saint-sinner flip: you're not reckless, you're alive. The villain to victim shift, they don't understand you like I do. The future self-illusion, imagine who you'll become with me. By redefining their identity, you become the author of their story. The labyrinth's heart, to control a mind is to hold its leash, but beware, the deeper you delve, the more you risk losing yourself. The Marquis de Sade wrote, "It is not the chains we forge for others that bind us, but those we cannot see." The unseen abyss you now possess, the tools to rewrite a psyche. But what happens when the mind you've sculpted turns against you, when the dependency you've bred becomes a weapon in their hands? The next chapter reveals the final, deadliest strategy, how to make them love their own destruction. The mind is a kingdom, seduce it, and you will reign. Chapter 8, Advanced Seduction Tactics. The chessboard of fate in the glittering salons of 18th-century Paris, the enigmatic Count of Saint-Germain captivated Europe's elite without ever revealing his true origins. He'd vanished for years, leaving behind cryptic letters and rumors of immortality, only to reappear with tales of ancient secrets. His lovers and patrons grew obsessed not with the man himself, but with the mystery he cultivated. He understood the deepest seduction is not of the body, but of the mind's relentless hunger for what it cannot fully possess. The art of intrigue, making someone think about you constantly. When Mata Hari danced for European aristocrats, she didn't merely strip off her veils, she peeled away layers of the psyche. Her performances ended abruptly, mid-movement, leaving audiences aching for resolution. Intrigue is not about revelation, it's about orchestrating absence. The Intrigue Playbook, the fragmented story. Share a detail of your life, then trail off. I once crossed the Sahara alone, but that's a story for another time. The unanswered question, pose a riddle they can't solve. Do you believe in destiny? Walk away before they reply. The phantom thread, leave objects or notes in their path, a book with your margin notes, song lyrics sent without context. The brain fixates on incomplete narratives, let them obsess over the gaps. Strategic neglect, when and how to pull away for maximum impact. Isadora Duncan. The rebellious dancer once fled a Russian prince's bed, leaving only a note, "I've gone to chase the wind." He spent months tracking her across Europe, his desire inflamed by her indifference. Strategic neglect works because humans crave what retreats. The neglect formula, the spark phase, flood them with attention, late-night talks, intense eye contact, whispered confessions. The eclipse phase, withdraw suddenly, citing pressing matters, real or invented, no explanation. The re-entry phase, return as if nothing happened, radiating calm. Their release will mask their fury and their desperation to prevent another eclipse. Neglect is a blade, use it sparingly or risk severing the thread entirely. Creating a sense of fated connection. When Napoleon Bonaparte met Josephine de Beauharnais, he declared she was the comet of his destiny. He wove their affair into a myth, their initials carved into trees, horoscopes aligning, dreams that predicted their union. She became his inevitability, his cosmic design. Fated connection tactics, the cosmic coincidence, we were born under the same stars. The echo game, mirror their past, you remind them of a lover from another life. The prophecy gambit, I've always known someone like you would come. Fate is a story they'll beg to believe. The subtle power of reverse psychology, and Bullen refused Henry VIII for 7 years, turning his courtship into a siege. Her resistance didn't deter him, it made her the prize he'd dismantle a kingdom to claim. Reverse psychology preys on the human urge to conquer. Reverse psychology tools, the reluctant prize, I don't think I'm right for you. The backward challenge, you're too intense for me, triggers their need to prove otherwise. The disinterested mirror, praise their rival, jealousy. As a venomous motivator, the serpent's final coil. Advanced seduction is a dance of paradoxes, presence through absence, control through surrender, truth through lies. But remember, the more elaborate the game, the greater the risk of entrapment. The Count of Saint-Germain died alone, his secrets buried with him, a testament to the cost of living as a riddle. The unseen abyss. You now command the tools to colonize a mind, but what happens when the obsession you've bred turns toxic? When the target's fixation becomes a mirror reflecting your own emptiness? The final chapter reveals the ultimate truth: the seducer's greatest victory is never needing to seduce at all. To win the game, you must first realize it's already over. Chapter 9: The Dark Side of Seduction. The Abyss That Gazes Back. In the shadowed corridors of Renaissance Florence, the poet Dante Alighieri penned a warning: the darkest seducer is not the one who lies, but the one who believes their own lies. He had watched friends vanish into the vortex of their own manipulations, mistresses reduced to ghosts, and kings undone by their thirst for control. Seduction, he realized, is a double-edged blade. It cuts the wielder as deeply as the target. The risks of emotional manipulation in 19th-century Paris. The actress Liva, a master, forged fortune by weaponizing love. She bankrupted barons, shattered marriages, and left a trail of suicides in her wake. Yet, in her final years, she grew paranoid, convinced every admirer was a spy. Her empire of control collapsed when she could no longer trust her own reflection. The hidden costs. The echo chamber. Manipulation demands constant vigilance. The more you twist another's emotions, the more you distort your own. The hollow victory: a seduced heart is a borrowed treasure, it crumbles when the spell fades. The karmic recoil: those who live by the sword often die by it. A manipulator becomes the mark as the brain adapts to deception over time. Even the most calculated seducer loses sight of where their performance ends and their true self begins. When seduction becomes toxic, the myth of Don Juan is not a romance, it's a cautionary tale. The legendary libertine seduced thousands, yet he died begging for mercy as his own soul fractured under the weight of his lies. Toxic seduction is marked by three sins: exploitation, preying on vulnerability, a grieving widow, a lonely heir, dehumanization, reducing a person to a conquest, a notch in a belt, addiction, using emotional narcotics, flattery, fear to induce dependency. When the target's pain becomes your pleasure, the game has already turned poisonous. How to identify and protect yourself from manipulative seducers. In 16th-century Venice, the courtesan Veronica Franco outwitted predators by mastering their tactics. She recognized the signs: the gaslight gaze, they rewrite reality; you're overreacting; the Hoover maneuver, they resurface after silence, dripping with false remorse; the narcissist's mask, they mirror your desires then vanish when bored. Armor against manipulation, the detachment drill: ask, would I respect this behavior in a friend? The boundary ritual: say no and watch their reaction. Fury or guilt-tripping is a red flag, the observer's stance, study their actions. Not their words: a wolf cannot hide its teeth forever. Ethical seduction, using your power responsibly. The poet Rumi wrote, "Love is not a dagger, it is the hand that heals the wound." Ethical seduction is not about conquest, it's about alchemy. It transforms loneliness into connection, fear into trust, without sacrificing autonomy. The four pillars of ethical seduction: the consent covenant. Seduction without enthusiastic consent is theft. The mirror of truth reflects their fantasies but never at the cost of their reality. The exit grace leaves them stronger, not shattered. A true seducer plants gardens, not scorched earth. The shadow dance acknowledges your own darkness, only then can you wield light. The final reckoning: the darkest seduction is self-seduction. The lies we tell ourselves to justify cruelty. But as the Sufi poets say, the only true victory is to surrender the need to win. The unseen door: you now stand at the precipice of mastery. The tools of seduction are neither good nor evil, they are fire, capable of warmth or ruin. The final lesson is this: the greatest seducer is not the one who conquers hearts but the one who walks away. To seduce ethically is to love the chase but never lose sight of the soul in the prey. Chapter 10: Mastering Seduction for Life. The Eternal Dance of Influence. In 1920s Paris, Coco Chanel did more than stitch fabric, she wove desire into a revolution. Her little black dress wasn't just clothing, it was a manifesto. Women flocked to her not for thread and silk, but for the promise she sold: freedom, elegance, rebellion. Chanel understood that seduction is not a moment, it's a lifetime. To master it is to become a living emblem, a force that reshapes rooms, boardrooms, and souls. Applying these techniques in social, business, and everyday situations. The salon strategist in 18th-century Versailles. The Marquise de Pompadour didn't just entertain, she curated ecosystems of power. Her salons mixed artists, financiers, and spies, turning conversation into currency. Seduction in social realms is about orchestrating moments: the dinner coup, seat rivals beside each other, let tension simmer, then swoop in as the mediator. The party's principle: at parties, linger in doorways, let others seek you out. Scarcity breeds fascination. The compliment: weaponize praise. Unspoken, you have the air of someone who's seen things. The boardroom seducer. Steve Jobs didn't sell computers, he sold the idea of revolution. His black turtleneck, his pregnant pauses, his mantra of insanity became tools of corporate seduction. In business, the vision mirage framed proposals as inevitable futures. Imagine a world where the flinch test stays silent after stating a demand, the first to speak loses. The Trojan horse embeds your agenda in others' goals, your vision aligns with minds. The everyday enchanter: even mundane interactions are stages. The barista who remembers your name, the neighbor who laughs at your jokes, these are threads in a tapestry of influence. Small seductions build empires. The micro-mystery: never fully explain yourself, let others dissect your motives. The gratitude gambit: overthank someone for a trivial favor, they will inflate its importance and your likability, creating lasting influence over people. Leonardo da Vinci died in 1519, but his Mona Lisa still captivates. Lasting influence is not about force, it's about imprinting your essence on the world. The legacy formula: the signature quirk. Develop a trademark. Hitchcock's cameo, Tesla's pigeons, Frida's unibrow, let it become synonymous with your myth. The ripple effect: mentor selectively, those you elevate will perpetuate your ideals. The absence paradox: vanish occasionally. Legends grow in the silence. The ultimate guide to becoming an unforgettable person. Oscar Wilde, even in disgrace, remained unforgettable. His secret? Unapologetic authenticity fused with theatrics. The unforgettable blueprint, the contrast code. Be silk in a world of wool. If others shout, whisper. If they beg, withhold. The story seed: let others mythologize you, correct them. Red. The vulnerability veil: show one flaw, a stutter, a scar, a habit. And weaponize it as a proof of your humanity. Final words: owning your power: the seducer's journey ends where true power begins, in the quiet acceptance of your own magnetism. You are not a puppeteer, you are the flame that others choose to orbit. Use your power to illuminate, not incinerate. The greatest seducers, Casanova, Chanel, Da Vinci, knew their craft was not about conquest but creation. They built worlds, not arms. As you step into your legacy, remember the world is a mirror, reflect strength, and strength bows to you. Guilt is the mark of the amateur. Mastery walks with clean hands and a clear conscience. Our seduction is not a game for the timid, it is the art of becoming the dream others dare not voice and the nightmare they cannot forget. Conclusion: the alchemist's final incantation. In the flickering torchlight of ancient Alexandria, Cleopatra dissolved a pearl into vinegar and drank it, a toast to her own audacity. She understood that seduction is not a parrot trick, it is the transmutation of the ordinary into the eternal. You too have dissolved the pearls of convention. You have studied the dance of dopamine, the alchemy of absence, the poetry of power. Now you must drink, unlocking your full potential as a seducer. The path to mastery is not linear, it is a spiral, looping through doubt, revelation, and reinvention. Consider Casanova, who penned his memoirs in a dank Venetian prison, transforming his disgraces into legend. Or Mata Hari, who turned her execution into a final performance, refusing a blindfold as the firing squad took aim. Mastery is not perfection, it is the courage to wield your imperfections as weapons. To unlock your potential, embrace the shadow, your flaws, restlessness, ambition, even cruelty are kindling for the flame. Become the myth. Others dissect your motives. A seducer's power lies in the stories they refuse to clarify. Merge art and science, balance the raw data of psychology with the wildness of intuition. How mastery of seduction enhances all areas of life. Seduction is the ultimate meta skill. It sharpens your empathy in relationships, your strategic mind in negotiations, your resilience in failure. A CEO who masters push-pull tactics can revive a dying company with a single speech. A parent who understands emotional anchoring can mend a fractured bond with a glance. The ripple effects, confidence. Seduction teaches you to crave the hunt, not just the prize. Adaptability, you learn to read rooms, markets, and so on like maps. Legacy, the relationships you build become living monuments to your influence. Next steps, practicing and refining your skills. In 17th century Japan, the samurai practiced kata, ritualized combat forms, for decades. Seduction, too, demands relentless ritual, the refinement cycle, the mirror phase. Study your reflections in every interaction, what worked, what betrayed you. The experiment, test one technique weekly, a new gesture, a calculated silence, a reframed identity. The burn, discard what weakens you. A true seducer's arsenal is lean, not cluttered. But heed this, mastery is a cliff, not a summit. One misstep, arrogance, complacency, cruelty, and you tumble. The final incantation, you are now a forge of human desire, a weaver of invisible threads. But the greatest seducer knows when to stop seducing. The moment you crave validation, the moment you hunger for a specific outcome, you've already lost. Seduction is not about the conquest, it is about becoming the person who no longer needs to conquer. The true seducer does not play the game, they become the game itself. Thanks for listening to Boundless Books Audio, where knowledge fuels transformation. If you found this audiobook valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content that helps you unlock your potential.